Hi, I'm Haley with Neuhaus Education Center, and in this video we're going to talk about how to plan a week's worth of lessons for accurate and automatic reading. So for the purposes of this video, let's assume that I've already completed instruction of concepts 1 through 25 with my students. I've given them Mastery Check 1, and at least 80% of my students mastered Mastery Check 1, so we're ready as a whole class to move on to concept 26. The next thing I need to think about is have a blank lesson plan and think, do I want to plan vertically or horizontally? If I'm planning vertically, I'm planning each of the 5 components for Monday, then each of the 5 components for Tuesday, and so on and so forth. If I'm planning horizontally, I'll plan one entire component for the whole week, then the second component for the whole week, and so on and so forth. Personally, I think I'm going to plan horizontally. So next, what I want to do is get out my Accurate and Automatic Reading Manual and think about what are the new concepts and the reading practices I'll be teaching. This will help me pace out my week. So you can open to, we're on page 20. This is reading concept 26 where I'll be starting my instruction. So I'm thinking reading concept 26, new concept introduction on Monday. How many reading practices are associated with that? 2. So it looks like I'll be doing 2 days of instruction here. So I'll be doing the new concept introduction on Monday, this first reading practice on Monday, and the second reading practice on Tuesday. Next, we'll move down to the next concept. Here's a new concept introduction, a practice for Wednesday and a practice for Thursday. We'll have another new concept introduction and a practice for Friday. So I've kind of paced out my week. Now what I want to do is look at a blank lesson plan. I have this one filled in, but you'll be thinking about how you would fill it in as we go. So here I have my 5 components of the AAR lesson. I've also added in materials at the bottom just because I think it's helpful to know what I might need each day. So for new concept introduction, we already said that we'll do reading concept 26 on Monday, and there are 2 reading practices associated with it for Monday and Tuesday. Then we'll do new concept introduction 27 on Wednesday. There are 2 reading practices associated, Wednesday and Thursday. And a new concept introduction on Friday, and there is 1 reading practice associated. So notice I've written in some other things onto my lesson plan as well. For new concept introductions, I wrote the concept, I wrote the sound symbol correspondence, and I wrote the page number. I think this will help me when I'm planning for my lessons. For reading practices, I wrote the reading practice, I wrote if it's words or sentence practice, and I wrote what words I'll be adding to my regular word deck or my irregular word deck. The place where you can find that is in your manual. If I'm looking at reading practices, it'll tell me if I'm doing words and what I should add to my regular word deck, or if I'm doing sentences and what I should add to my irregular word deck. I think it's useful to have that information ahead of time so I'm not scrambling for the cards after we do our reading practice. So now we've planned for components 1 and 3 on our lesson plan. We need to go back and plan for component 2, 4, and 5, and then be filling in any materials we need. So for component 2, that's decks. I know I'm doing decks every single day. I'm doing the regular word deck every single day. So I've written regular every single day, Monday through Friday. I know that irregular word deck and word part deck is about twice a week. So I'm going to fill those in on different days. Strategically, I'm thinking irregular word deck would be helpful on Tuesday and Thursday because those are the days my students will be doing sentence practices, and I think that will be very useful for them. I've just arbitrarily picked Monday and Friday as days to review my word part deck. So that's component 2. We've done 1, 2, and 3. Now let's look at component 4. This is word profile. I only need to do a word profile twice a week. So I've chosen Wednesday and Friday. The reason I chose Wednesday is it's a shorter day for decks. Maybe we'll have a little more time, and then I arbitrarily picked Friday. When I'm choosing a word for a word profile, I'm choosing a word from the reading practice that same day. So here, for my word profile on Wednesday, I picked a word from reading practice 27. Here for my word profile on Friday, I picked a word from reading practice 28. The words I picked weren't just a random word. I wanted to pick a word that has a lot of meaning attached to it, so I picked words that had multiple parts of speech or figurative language, different multiple meanings. So here you can see on Wednesday, I chose the word bump, and on Friday, I chose the word skin. I also wrote in a few of those multiple meanings on my lesson plan, so it would help me when I'm thinking about a word profile. The final component we're planning for is the read aloud. We're reading the same text every single day for 5 days in our week, and the text I've chosen is Snowball by Shel Silverstein, a poem. So I wrote that on Monday, but I know that I'll be reading it every single day of the week. Then I just jotted down very quickly from Monday through Friday what the focus of my questioning will be. I wanted a different focus every day. It doesn't matter what order you go in, as long as you're meeting the needs of your students and questioning that matches what the text is. So on Monday, we're going to talk about comprehension. Tuesday, we'll do vocabulary. Wednesday, we'll do some rhyming because it's a poem. Thursday, we'll talk about imagery and theme. And Friday, we'll talk about connections, text to text, text to self, and text to world connections. So I'm not done. I filled in my overview of the lesson plan. I know where I'm going. This is like a roadmap, but now what I need to do is think about specific questioning for each of those components. On new concept introduction, all I need to do is follow the script laid out here in my manual. I don't need to add in my own questioning. Everything I need is right here. For decks, I don't need to come up with any questions because I'll just be flipping cards for students. But let's talk about reading practice. This is the heart and soul of the lesson. It will take 10 to 15 minutes, so I do need to have specific questions and sentence stems planned out for my students. I don't want to do this on the fly while they're learning. So what I'm going to do is I'll have a copy of the reading practice for all of my students, but I'll also make a copy for myself. And directly on that copy, I'm going to write any questions I have for my students. So when we're thinking about a reading practice, you're doing 3 different reads. The first read is for accuracy. So I'll write any questions I want for accuracy, such as what's the vowel sound, what type of syllable is it? The second read is all about the domains of language. So this is where I'm going to ask different questions of the words on the page, such as what rhymes, what are the phonemes, what is the meaning of? The third read is for fluency. So I'm going to jot down a few ways that I'm going to get students to read these words multiple times. So maybe I'll say girls are going to read column 1, boys column 2, and so on. This will help me keep a brisk pace while I'm teaching, and I won't be scrambling with my thoughts while I'm trying to help students learn and read and to decode their page. For the fourth component, which is a word profile, I definitely need to plan this ahead of time as well. So I need to pull out my paper or my anchor chart that has all of the different questions I'll be asking about a word profile. Things like how many phonemes are in the word, what are some derivatives of the word, multiple meanings, how is it used in figurative language, and so on. And I want to think through these answers ahead of time so that I can help lead my students scaffold their thinking to get to those answers. It's okay if I need to look up some things ahead of time online or really put some thought into it as long as I'm prepared. It's only 3 minutes with students, so we need to move quickly. The final thing I need to plan for ahead of time is my read aloud. Like I said, you'll be reading that same text every single day, but you need to have your questioning, you need to think about it ahead of time. Sure, as teachers, we might be great at thinking of questions like, well, who are the characters? What is the setting? But we want to go deeper with our questioning in a read aloud. This text should be higher than students' independent reading level, so we want to have higher level questioning for them. I'm going to jot down some questions for each day based on the focus of questioning that I have for that day. So on Monday, I chose comprehension. I'm going to jot down a few questions for comprehension that I can ask students after I read the poem to them. Tuesday, I talked about vocabulary, so I want to choose some rich vocabulary words from that poem and think about how I can question my students or lead them in a discussion. Same goes for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. You don't want to come up with this during the lesson. You want it to be thoughtfully prepared ahead of time. And then remember, I added on the bottom of my lesson plan a section for materials. I think that's a very good idea because then you can make sure you have everything gathered ahead of time and you're not wasting your time while you're working with students searching for your deck, searching for a reading practice. It's best if, as teachers, we're prepared ahead of time. This helps for a couple of different ways. First of all, we're not wasting time. You only have 25 to 30 minutes for this AAR lesson. That's not a lot of time in the course of your day, so you want it to move quickly. Second is, I'm sure as all teachers out there know, when you are having to look around on your desk for something, students lose their engagement, and that's when you might see some misbehavior. So it's best to keep them engaged, keep that pace very brisk, and so you're keeping kids with you so they can do the learning. If you have any more questions about how to plan for an AAR lesson, you can always refer to your AAR manual or your AAR training materials.